It was a blistering August afternoon at Arlington National Cemetery. The sun hung heavy in the sky, turning marble paths into blazing strips of white-hot stone. Tourists moved like ants, careful not to trip, careful not to disrupt the solemn silence that draped the grounds like a heavy, invisible blanket. And there she was. Karen. Karen wasn't your average visitor. She was loud, brash, and utterly convinced that the rules didn't apply to her. A corporate type by day, self-proclaimed rebel by night. She had a phone in one hand, a designer tote slung over her shoulder, and a brand new taser in the other. She had been scrolling online earlier, reading some forum thread about shocking fun pranks. Something about her snapped. She wanted attention. She wanted to feel powerful. And in her mind, today, that meant testing her shiny little taser on someone she assumed would be an easy target. A tomb guard. The guard she chose was every bit the picture of discipline. Boots polished to a mirror shine, rifle gleaming in the sunlight, posture perfect, movements deliberate. 21 steps forward, pause, turn, 21 steps back. His uniform looked almost sculpted, as if sewn onto his body by a master tailor. His eyes were straight ahead, unblinking, unbothered by the world. Karen smirked. She stepped closer, heart racing, adrenaline high. This is going to be hilarious, she whispered to herself, flicking the safety off the taser. But there's a law about assumptions. They rarely end well. As Karen aimed, the guard stopped mid-step. He didn't need to look at her. His presence alone demanded attention. He tilted his head slightly, just enough for her to sense it. That small motion sent a shiver down her spine, one she tried to ignore. You are entering a restricted area, his voice said. Calm, measured, but carrying a weight that made Karen's bravado wobble for the first time. Visitors are expected to maintain silence and respect. Karen rolled her eyes. Yeah, I know the rules. But this is going to be funny. Just a little zap! No one will even notice. She pressed the taser trigger. The world seemed to split into two. First, there was the hum, the crackle, and the sudden, unexpected flash of pain shooting through her own hands. She hadn't held it right. The taser backfired, sending electricity surging through her body. She staggered, dropping the device, hair standing on end, muscles screaming in revolt. The guard didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. His calm presence was almost supernatural, as if he had absorbed centuries of discipline into his very bones. Karen's heart raced, panic rising, and she scrambled to pick up the taser again. But the guard's next move was subtle, yet commanding. He shifted slightly, boots clicking, rifle angled, eyes locked on her. Step back immediately, he said, voice low and steady. This is sacred ground. I will not warn you again. Something about that calm authority pierced through Karen's arrogance. She took a step back, taser trembling in her hands. I was just testing it. For fun, she mumbled, trying to cover her fear with a weak laugh. The guard didn't move closer. He didn't need to. His stance alone communicated the consequences of her actions. Fun is measured differently here, he said. Respect is not optional. It is demanded, it is earned. And when it is violated, lessons are unavoidable. Karen wanted to laugh. She wanted to shake it off. But her body was still tingling from the misfired taser. Her chest heaved. Her hands shook. And for the first time, she felt small not just physically, but morally, spiritually. She glanced at the crowd. Tourists had stopped, some whispering, others frozen, eyes wide. They had seen the moment, the humiliation, the near listen. That could have ended much worse. Karen felt exposed, like a child caught sneaking cookies before dinner. The guard didn't lecture. He didn't yell. He simply resumed his march, boots clicking, rifle polished, movements fluid, unwavering. 21 steps forward. Pause. Turn. 21 steps back. Ritual. Precision. Discipline. Karen stood there, stunned. She had intended to assert dominance, to feel powerful, to shock someone else, and yet She had been the one undone. She bent down, picking up the taser, feeling its useless weight in her hands. And then, as if something in the guard's relentless calm had seeped into her, she did something unexpected. She bowed her head, just slightly, just enough to acknowledge. The crowd noticed. A few people whispered, "Finally, someone learned." Karen's internal monologue was chaotic, but the lesson was clear. She had tried to wield power carelessly, to assert control over a sacred space she did not understand. And in doing so, she had confronted something far greater than herself. The unwavering discipline of a man who had devoted himself entirely to a duty he understood deeply. Hours later, Karen would recount the story to herself over and over, each retelling embedding the lesson deeper into her mind. Not just a lesson about arrogance or disrespect or consequences, but about humility, about awareness, about the gravity of spaces, actions, and responsibilities. She had tried to shock someone for attention, but she had been shocked herself not by electricity, but by a force far stronger. The tomb guard had humbled her without a single punch, without a shout, without any theatrics. His mere presence, his unwavering discipline, his silent authority had rewritten her understanding of power. Karen left Arlington that day changed. She walked more slowly, more deliberately. She noticed things she had ignored before. The glint of sunlight on marble, the hushed murmurs of tourists, the rhythm of footsteps echoing on stone. She realized that respect is not about fear. It is about understanding, about honor, about recognizing when your own ego threatens to cross lines it shouldn't. The taser stayed in her bag the entire way home. She didn't even think to use it. It was useless now, a symbol of her own arrogance, a reminder that power without discipline is meaningless. Weeks later, in conversations with friends, she wouldn't mention the embarrassment, the sparks, or the near disaster. She would only speak of the lesson, of the man who stood in the sun, immovable, disciplined, unshakable. And she would always remember the way he had taught her not through force, but through presence, through unwavering adherence to principle, through the silent, unyielding weight of honor. Karen's life shifted in subtle ways. She became more aware of how she treated people, how she approached challenges, how she weighed her own ego against the needs of others. The taser incident became a personal parable, a story she repeated quietly to herself. Never underestimate discipline. Never take respect for granted. Never assume power without understanding its true meaning. And in her dreams, she sometimes returned to Arlington. The sun blazing, the marble pathways, the silent, clicking boots of the tomb guard. She could see him. Always calm, always precise. A living testament to what it means to dedicate yourself entirely to a principle bigger than yourself. Karen had tried to shock a tomb guard, but the guard had done something far more powerful. He had shocked her mind, her ego, her assumptions. He had humbled her. And in that humility, she found a lesson she would never forget. The story spread quietly among a few tourists, whispered to children and companions. A subtle warning. Arrogance is fleeting, but respect endures. Actions have consequences. Sometimes immediate, sometimes subtle, but always real. And those who dedicate themselves to duty and honor carry a force that cannot be measured in fists, gadgets, or bravado. By the end of the day, Arlington had returned to its quiet, solemn rhythm. Tourists resumed their soft steps, cameras clicked less urgently, and the tomb guard continued his vigil. Boots clicking, rifle shifting, eyes forward. He did not need recognition. He did not seek applause. He simply existed as a sentinel of history. A reminder that some lessons are learned not through confrontation, but through the quiet, unyielding presence of someone who has committed themselves fully to duty. Karen would remember this day for the rest of her life. She would recall the hum of electricity, the shock of reality, the quiet authority of a man who had done nothing but stand his ground. She had entered Arlington seeking thrill, seeking attention, seeking to assert power. She left with something far more valuable: understanding, humility, and a lesson she would carry forever. Because, at Arlington, some lessons are earned the hard way. And the tomb guard, stoic, disciplined, unflinching, was a master teacher, even when the student had thought herself untouchable.